Welcome back to the deep dive. There's this constant tension, isn't there, between the structured world of project governance and the, let's face it, sometimes chaotic speed of agile delivery.
There really is. And today, we're going to try and resolve some of that tension.
Exactly. So if you are aiming for your PRINCE2 Agile Practitioner certification, think of this as your guide to mastering the one concept that really holds it all together.
That's right. We are focusing, and I mean really focusing, on the business case practice. In PRINCE2 Agile, this isn't just, paperwork. It's the constant heartbeat of the project.
We're calling this one the unshakable why.
I like that.
Our mission today is pretty straightforward. We want to give you a complete, structured audio overview that maps, well, perfectly to your study materials.
We're pulling directly from the official guidance, but we're going to translate it into something, actionable, memorable insights you can actually use.
Because at the end of the day, if you can't confidently explain why your project is still worth the investment, then, well, all the sprints in the world won't save it.
Right. And we're looking at the business case as a dynamic practice, not some static document you write and forget. We'll cover all the key definitions, the tailoring, the artifacts,
Yeah.
things like the project canvas, which is so central to making this work.
Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack the core purpose that defines every single PRINCE2 Agile project. So the fundamental goal of the business case. It sounds simple, but it's really about creating a system to answer three tough questions.
Right.
Does the business actually want this? Can we really build it? And maybe most importantly, will building it actually work?
And all of that is in service of one thing, making good decisions about continued investment.
Exactly.
This is really just putting the most important PRINCE2 Agile principle into practice,
Yeah.
which is continued business justification. I mean, you as the practitioner have to ensure that justification is true for the entire life cycle.
Not just at the start.
Oh no, every stage, every release, every single decision. If something changes in the business environment, a competitor launches something, or your costs suddenly double, and that justification just disappears.
Never mind.
Then the project board have a clear mandate. Stop the project, pivot, or drastically change the scope. It stops organizations from just throwing good money after bad.
So the business case is the compass then. It guides those big decisions.
It is. And it does that by defining three core pillars for the investment.
Okay, what are they?
So first, you have the benefits. This is the measurable value you expect to get.
Yep.
Second, the fundamental purpose, the core reason you're spending the money in the first place. And third, the objectives, the specific measurable goals you have to hit.
And if those three things don't line up,
You don't have a business case. Simple as that.
right. And to check that alignment, we have to decode these three essential criteria. I think this is where a lot of projects get it wrong. They focus on just one.
They absolutely do.
Let's start with the first one. Is the project desirable?
Desirability is basically the balance sheet. It's a constant weighing of costs, benefits, and risks. In Agile, this isn't a one-time calculation. It's continuous.
So a project could be desirable 1 month and not the next.
Exactly. You might be delivering great benefits, but if the cost to get the next piece of value suddenly shoots up or the risk profile gets too high, it might just stop being desirable. It's about the overall value proposition at that moment in time.
Okay, so that's desirability. And now what about viable? It sounds similar to achievable, but it's different, isn't it?
It's a critical distinction. Viability is all about the physical capacity to deliver. It asks, can we actually build the specialist products, the outputs?
So do we have the skills, the tech?
Yeah, do we have the technology, the people, the resources to physically create what we promised? If you want to build a new satellite, but you can't get a launch partner, your project is not viable. It's purely about the capability to deliver.
Got it. And that brings us to the third one, achievable.
Achievable is the leap of faith. A calculated one, but still a leap. It connects what you build the outputs to the business strategy.
So it's about making sure that delivering the product will actually lead to the benefits you wanted.
Precisely. You might successfully build a super complex AI system. It's viable. But if your users refuse to adopt it because it's too complicated or the data going in is garbage.
Then the outcome, the benefit, is never achieved.
Exactly. The project was viable, but it wasn't achievable.
Yeah.
And that distinction is it's so fundamental.
And this journey from delivery to value is really well visualized in the output to outcome chain. That's figure 6.1 in the materials. I think we should walk through this because this is a whole mechanism that justifies the investment.
Let's do it. It all starts with outputs.
Which are the deliverables, right? The actual things you hand over.
Yeah, the tangible or intangible products. So let's say an output is a new custom-built knowledge management system. It's installed on the server. Done.
But just installing it does nothing. You need the capabilities.
Yes, the capability is the completed set of outputs needed for an outcome. But the key word here is embedding. It's the transition. For our knowledge system, the capability means the staff are trained, they know how to use it, it's full of useful content. The business now has the ability to operate the output.
And once that capability is embedded, you get an outcome.
The outcome is the result of that change. It's about real-world behavior. So the outcome is that the support staff now search that knowledge base first before they escalate a ticket to a senior engineer. Their behavior has changed.
And the measurable result of that behavior change is the benefit.
That's it. The benefit is the measurable improvement. The outcome staff searching first leads to the benefit, a 15% reduction in ticket escalation time. That's a real positive measurable advantage.
But we can't forget the flip side, the disbenefits.
Never. A disbenefit is a measurable decline from that same outcome. So the new system might reduce escalation time, but maybe the initial training took 2 weeks of staff time. That's a measurable temporary decline in productivity. Or maybe it's hard to update, so knowledge accuracy declines over time. You track both.
And all of this, outputs, outcomes, benefits, disbenefits, it all culminates in the business objectives.
It all feeds back. The business case is the mechanism that proves that 15% reduction in ticket time actually helps the organization achieve its bigger strategic goal of, say, optimizing internal efficiency. It all connects.
Okay, so now we take that very formal, structured idea and we throw it into the Agile world. I mean, in traditional projects, the business case was this huge, rigid document.
Signed in blood, usually.
Right. But in Agile, where priorities can shift every couple of weeks, that's a huge liability. The focus moves from upfront documentation to just constant value delivery.
And that's the core conflict a practitioner needs to solve. You have Agile teams who need flexibility, but you have PRINCE2 governance that demands structured justification. So the guidance says you have to tailor.
Let's break down the 4 main ways to do that. First up, instead of that massive document, we use a project canvas.
The project canvas is the star of the show here. It's a visual, collaborative tool that gets the entire justification onto a single page. It replaces formality with visibility, and crucially, it doesn't just show the expected case, it captures best case, worst case. It keeps the justification alive and visible.
Okay, second point, and this is pure Agile. Define the minimum viable product, or MVP.
Yes, and this is where you, as a practitioner, have to link the MVP directly to governance. It's not just a list of features, it's the core set of features that defines the minimum acceptable scope for the project board.
So it's a tolerance, then?
It's a tripwire. If the team forecasts they can't deliver that MVP within the budget and time frame, that is an immediate exception. It turns scope flexibility into a structured governance tool.
Brilliant. Third guidance point. Embrace incremental delivery. This is the engine that keeps the business case alive, right?
It is. When you deliver value in frequent releases, you get earlier benefits realization. The moment a benefit is realized, even a small one, you can update your forecasts. This has a huge positive impact on the viability assessment and makes it so much easier to justify the next increment of work. You're constantly feeding the justification.
And the final point is to validate assumptions early. The first business case is always full of assumptions.
Always. About users, about the market, about the tech. So you use rapid prototyping, maybe the discovery phase during initiation, to test the biggest unknowns before you commit the full investment.
Now, this idea of a discovery phase or a sprint zero, that's a bit of a hot topic in the Agile community, isn't it?
It is. The guidance is clear that there's no formal standard. Some people love them for de-risking, others worry they just become mini waterfall projects up front.
But regardless of what you call it, the sources are clear that some upfront work is non-negotiable.
Absolutely. You need that initial phase to define the vision, to lay some architectural groundwork, and to create that initial project canvas. You need it to get formal authorization to even begin delivery. You can't just dive in without having that initial why signed off.
Okay, so if the project canvas is this living thing, we need a disciplined way to manage it. This brings us to the 4-step management lifecycle.
Right. This is the operational rhythm of the practice. And it starts way before the project is even formally kicked off with the first step, develop.
Tell us about develop. What happens there?
Develop is all about exploring the options. The do nothing option, the minimum spend option, and your recommended option. You gather all the data you need to create that initial project canvas.
So this is happening in a pre-project and initiation.
Correct. It's the work you do to get the right information so the project board can look at it and say, yes, we agree this project is worth initiating.
Okay, so the justification is developed, the project is initiated, then we move to the check step. This feels more like a formal gate.
It is. Checking is the core governance mechanism. It's about assessing if the project is still worthwhile at key decision points, usually at stage boundaries. You take the updated project canvas and check it against actual progress, actual costs, and any benefits you've realized so far.
And this is where an exception report would land.
This is exactly where it lands. If costs are over tolerance, the project board uses this check step to decide what to do: approve the fix, pivot the project, or maybe even shut it down.
Right. And between those formal checks, we have the ongoing effort to maintain the business case. Now, how is this different from just, day-to-day monitoring? Is the PM just constantly updating this document?
That's a great question, because that's where the practitioner needs to be clear. Maintaining is not just BAU monitoring. It's an active, mandated process of updating the canvas when specific material things happen that affect the justification.
What kind of things? What are the triggers?
Well, if a major risk suddenly happens, or a critical assumption is proven completely wrong in a sprint, or, say, early user feedback makes you realize your benefit forecast is way off.
Ah, so significant events.
Significant events. The business case manager or product owner must update the canvas. This means when you get to that formal stage boundary check, the decision is based on real-time, accurate data, not a forecast from 6 months ago. It keeps it honest.
Okay, and then finally, after the project has delivered, we have the confirm step.
Confirming is about closing the loop. It's the process of assessing whether the intended benefits have actually been realized or if they're on track to be. In Agile, this can be iterative. You release an MVP, you immediately realize 30% of your benefits. That's a confirmation.
But a lot of benefits happen long after the project team has moved on.
They do, and that's why the benefits management approach, which is owned by the business, has to continue post-project. It's the business's job to confirm that the value that justified the entire investment actually appeared.
Okay, so to make this whole four-step cycle work, PRINCE2 Agile relies on some very specific management products. Let's get into this Agile toolkit.
Yes, and understanding how these four are tailored is essential for the practitioner exam. This is how the project board can give the team flexibility on scope while still keeping control over cost and time.
First up, the project brief. Its job is to provide the foundation for initiation. How is the Agile version different?
The key shift is it has to emphasize outcomes over specific solutions. It needs to articulate the what and the why, but give the team freedom on the how.
So it allows for that flexible scope.
Exactly. The brief must include the project vision, the project canvas itself, a high-level backlog, and the defined tolerances. It's the mandate for the project.
Okay, artifact number 2 is the one we keep coming back to. The project canvas.
Its purpose is clear. Document the full business justification. But here's the little governance nugget you need to know. The guidance says the canvas must explicitly define the MVP.
Why is that so important?
Because the MVP is the non-negotiable threshold. It's the tripwire. If the team ever forecasts that delivery will drop below the scope of the MVP, an exception must be raised. It puts a hard line around scope flexibility.
Very clever. Okay, next up is the benefits management approach. This is about proving the benefits are actually happening.
Yes, and in an Agile context, the guidance for this is all about frequency. The approach must plan for frequent releases to support early benefit delivery. And because value is landing sooner, it also mandates that the project's viability should be reassessed more often, maybe after each major release, not just at the end of a long stage.
And finally, a really modern and important one, the sustainability management approach.
When a critical addition. Its purpose is to define the actions and controls to meet the project's sustainability targets. And this isn't just, nice to have language. It links directly back to the costs and benefits on the canvas.
So how does that work in practice? What kind of methods are we talking about?
The guidance is pretty clear. It emphasizes minimizing waste. For example, using good prioritization to avoid building low-value features. It pushes for decisions that actively reduce environmental impact, like measuring the carbon footprint of your cloud provider. It even gets down to the team level, encouraging things like paperless team rooms. Sustainability is treated as a core governance principle.
Okay, so given the project canvas is so central, let's really drill down into its structure. Figure 6.3 shows 8 suggested elements.
And by laying out these 8 boxes, the canvas forces you to create a holistic justification. It covers users, strategy, risk, cost, and scope all in one glance.
Let's walk through them. It starts with the big picture stuff, project vision and business value.
Right, the vision is your elevator pitch, a snappy slogan that explains what the product is and why it matters. The business value then captures the metrics, the tangible financial targets, and the intangible things like brand reputation or staff morale.
Then we get into the choices and the audience, business options and users.
The business options box forces transparency. You have to define the option you chose, but also the ones you considered and rejected. And, critically, the do the minimum option. It helps the board understand the cost of doing nothing.
And the user section.
That's where you put your personas, your user groups, their pain points, their goals. It grounds the entire justification in real human needs.
Then come the practical constraints, scope and costs.
Scope covers everything: time, tolerances, sustainability targets, features, and dependencies. And as we said, it must include that explicit definition of the MVP. Costs has to be comprehensive too. Project costs, yes, but also operational and maintenance costs, funding sources, and any early revenue you expect from incremental delivery.
And the final 2 elements that kind of close the loop are benefits and major risks.
Benefits details what you expect to gain, any disbenefits, and how you'll measure them. And major risks must cover both threats and opportunities, along with how you plan to respond to them. Seeing all 8 together really lets you assess if the project is desirable, viable, and achievable.
Now let's talk about how you actually build this thing. It's not created in a vacuum, right? There's a 5-step collaborative process.
Yes, and the sequence is really important because it ensures the whole thing is user-led. Step 1. Define users and create personas. Always start here. If you don't know who you're building for, you can't define value.
Okay, so you know your users. Step 2 is to brainstorm solutions and business options based on their needs.
Exactly. You look at the personas you just created and brainstorm how to solve their problems. This should be a wide-ranging exercise, different technologies, different scales of delivery.
Then comes the hard part. Step 3, choose the best option. How do you define best?
You're looking for the sweet spot. You assess your options against viability, feasibility, and desirability. The best option is the one that hits the middle of that Venn diagram.
So viable means the business can afford it long term. Feasible means the team can actually build it. And desirable means users will actually want it.
That's the one. An option might be feasible and desirable, but if it's going to bankrupt the company to maintain it, it's not the best option.
Okay, so you found the sweet spot. Step 4 is to create the project vision.
Right. Now that you know exactly what you're building and why, you can create that inspiring, concise slogan that gets everyone on the same page.
And the final step, step 5, is basically filling in the rest of the canvas.
Yes. Define the benefits, major risks, scope, costs, and metrics. You take your chosen option and you flesh out all the details, ensuring everything is aligned. That process is what makes the justification so robust.
Let's talk more about that first step because personas are so important. They're the bridge between the abstract business case and the actual user.
They really are.
Yeah.
And the reason Agile focuses on them so much is because traditional user groups just don't work anymore.
What do you mean?
Well, think about demographics. Saying your user is a female, age 35-50, tells you almost nothing about her needs for a piece of software. She could be a tech CEO or someone who barely uses a computer. Demographics don't mean shared needs anymore.
So personas shift the focus to needs and experiences.
Exactly. You might have a persona called the struggling new user or the efficiency-seeking power user, and their age or gender is irrelevant. You're designing for their goals and their pain points.
And a good persona has several key elements to make it feel real.
It does. It needs a picture and a quote to humanize it. It must detail their pains or frustrations. It needs clear goals and values. And finally, some traits, skills, and preferences. A bit about their personality.
And this helps the team make decisions, right? If a feature solves a major pain point for your primary persona, it shoots up the backlog.
That's the idea. Now, for the exam, you need to know the guidelines for creating good personas. First, they must be data-driven.
They can't just be made up by the project team in a workshop.
No, they need real data from surveys, interviews, analytics. If you have to start with assumptions to get the project moving, you must validate them immediately in that discovery phase. You have to protect the business case from being based on just internal bias.
Okay, second guideline. They need to be the product of collaborative creation.
This is so important for getting buy-in. You develop them in workshops with people from development, marketing, sales, everyone. It prevents those situations where the dev team and the marketing team have completely different ideas about who the user is.
And third, they need to be focused. You don't want a cast of thousands.
No, absolutely not. Too many personas just dilutes the focus. The guidance suggests 1 to 3 primary user groups, maybe 5 personas max for a new project. Quality over quantity.
I remember hearing about a project that got this slightly wrong. They designed this brilliant internal app for scheduling meetings. Their personas for the admin staff, the primary users, were perfect.
Left.
But they completely missed the small but very powerful group of senior executives who traveled constantly. The new app, which was great for the admins, actually added 5 minutes to the exec scheduling process. They created a disbenefit for the 20% of users who held all the power.
A perfect example. The personas were fictional, but they were also a bit fake. They didn't represent the full reality of the user base. A good persona is a fictional archetype, but it has to be a true one.
Okay, so far we've been very project-focused, but one of the most powerful ideas here is that these tools don't just disappear when the project ends, they're just as vital for business as usual, for operations.
That's exactly right. The justification doesn't end at go live. The BAU team has to pick up that mantle. The business case becomes a living management tool for them too.
So how does the project canvas work in an operational context?
It evolves into a kind of operational strategy map. It helps clarify operational objectives by aligning the team's day-to-day work with changing customer needs. It helps them evolve the value proposition as the market shifts, and it's crucial for stakeholder alignment, keeping everyone on the same page about the team's strategic role.
What about project backlogs? Surely the backlog is done when the project is done.
Not at all. It just becomes an operational backlog. It's the engine for continuous improvement. The key difference is it's usually funded by an operational budget, not project capital. It's where you prioritize fixes, small enhancements, and high-impact maintenance.
So it's about continual improvement.
Yes, and it also drives workflow integration. Operational teams use tools like Kanban boards that are fed directly from this backlog. It gives everyone visibility and ensures the highest priority improvements get addressed.
And finally, how do you use personas in operations?
They are absolutely essential for maintaining customer centricity. First, they need to be refined based on real operational data. User behavior changes, so the personas have to change too.
And for training?
Oh, they're fantastic for training and communication. Imagine training your service desk. If they know they're talking to the frustrated beginner persona, they can tailor their approach so much more effectively. It builds empathy.
And for making decisions?
Exactly. For decision-making. When you have a limited operational budget, you prioritize the fixes or upgrades that deliver the most value to your most important persona. It makes sure your operational spend is always aligned with the original business justification.
Wow. Okay, that was a truly exhaustive deep dive into the unshakable why. I think you now have a pretty complete picture of the business case practice, especially for your practitioner exam. So to make sure you've got it all, let's run through a final checklist.
Good idea. Test yourself on this as you listen. Can you confidently?
Explain the core purpose of the business case, defining desirable, viable, and achievable, and can you talk through that critical output to outcome chain?
Describe how to tailor the practice using a project canvas. And this is a key one. Explain how the MVP acts as a structured scope tolerance tool.
Can you name the 4 key Agile artifacts, the brief, the canvas, and the benefits and sustainability management approaches, and explain how they are tailored for an Agile world?
Detail the 8 components of a project canvas and walk through the 5-step collaborative process for creating one, especially how you find that sweet spot option.
Can you apply the persona technique, detailing its key elements and the 3 guidelines, data-driven, collaborative, and focused, to show how it informs the business case?
And finally, can you understand and explain the 4-step management life cycle? Develop, check, maintain, and confirm, knowing the specific triggers that force an update during that maintain step.
If you can articulate all of those points with confidence, I think you've absolutely nailed this domain.
So I'll leave you with one final thought to mull over, one that connects the project to the long-term business reality. If the project canvas is truly a living artifact, what specific, measurable mechanisms does your organization need to embed in its operations to ensure that the benefits management approach is still relevant 2 years after the project confirms its last benefit? How do you keep that justification alive long after the project team is gone?
A fantastic challenge to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the unshakable why.
Good luck with your studies.
We'll catch you next time.